Hello everybody, welcome to the video. I thought today I would do the Red or Dead thread that comes from Martin the Vinyl Scavenger. Now Martin was pushing to 500 subscribers when he launched this video or launched this thread 3 weeks ago. He's now at over 600, so the thread has achieved its aims. But I thought it was interesting because what Martin said in this video, I found exactly the same here. How many spines of LP records do we have that are red? Well, let me just kind of introduce what it is all about. It's kind of a selection of albums that either the spine is red, like these, like these, and or the artist or one of the artists is dead. So I looked around my record collection and I thought I'll try and do something a bit different. I'll go to my jazz collection first, and I can find orange like on the Impulse label, but I can't find any red. And maybe one, but it was a one that I wasn't familiar enough to present it on video. Then I looked at my classical vinyl collection. Almost nothing is red, so it's back to rock and pop as the source of all of these albums. So I think Martin said you can kind of do like five red, 5 dead, but I've seen a few videos here in this thread that are kind of, it's a bit loose, and I don't mind that at all. So I've just grabbed almost all of my red spined LPs and I'm going to share with some of them with you today. And in amongst these are 5 more that I'm going to include in my Dave's FAVE500 listing, and those will be the 5 last ones of this pile. So let me rattle through them. The first one with a red spine is Daryl Hall and John Oates, and that's their compilation Rock and Soul Part 1. And this includes classics like She's Gone, Sarah Smile, Rich Girl, Private Eyes, I Can't Go For That, Man Eater. I just can't wait for Part 2. Given that this was released in 1983, I won't hold my breath. Second one is, I think it's a bit of a transitional album for this artist, because before this album, he was more of a pop artist, pop solo artist, with a mean skills in slide guitar. And I think this was the beginning of where he started to transition more into kind of a white blues artist, and that is Chris Rea and The Road to Hell. Got a fantastic Road to Hell Part 1 and Part 2 that opens the album. Also, it's got a very moving track that closes the album, Tell Me There's a Heaven, which is about child abuse, as far as I can recall. Something is rather quite different to that, but it is pop. I haven't played this album for absolutely years, and that is You Can Dance, the remix album by Madonna. What do we have on here? Spotlight, Holiday, Everybody, Over and Over, Into the Groove, the monster that is Into the Groove. Great stuff. I should really give that a play. An artist that is definitely dead, and that is the great Terry Callier, and this is a live album that was released. Where was it? Hang on. 2001. Got to know Terry Callier some once, I think, in Bristol. Kind of a soul folk, been around since the 1960s, but he kind of came back and released a handful of absolutely brilliant albums in the 90s. This has got People Get Ready, Lament for the Late AD, which is great. Timepiece is excellent. You're going to miss your Candyman. But yeah, that's great. The great Terry Callier. Saw this band in the 1970s, but not really much of a fan, and that is Streetwalkers, and that is Red Card, which I think is that second album or first album? Led by Roger Chapman. Roger Chapman of Family fame. Him of that really incredibly distinctive vocal style. You either love it or you hate it. And I veer towards the hate it, really. I'm not that keen. But anyway, kind of blues, kind of rock, early 70s rock, interesting album. Haven't played that one in ages either. Back when R&B used to be R&B, the great Robert Parker. And this is a compilation which has the brilliant Barefootin' on it. Fantastic. Less fantastic, but a must-have if you're a completist. You're trying to, you're curious about this artist because all the critics think it's absolutely fantastic. But I've described this band as standing at the top of a great big, huge, wide wooden staircase. And the leader of this band asks the band to start playing their music, and then he pushes them all down the stairs while they're playing their instruments as they fall. And that is the weird Captain Beefheart and Trout Mask Replica. Not his best album in my judgment, but I'm not really a brilliant fan, I have to say. But yeah, interesting artist. What do I like? Oh, there's one track I love in particular, but anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, the great Elvis Costello and the Attractions, and that is Blood and Chocolate. The great ones on here, I Want You is brilliant. Tokyo Storm Warning, Uncomplicated, that opens the album. Yeah, quite a tough, aggressive sounding album, this one. Something a lot softer and almost Pink Floydish, and that is Air, and that is their second album that was released internationally, I think, and that is it a 10,000 Hertz? 10,000 Hertz Legend, yeah. And of course, the great track on here that you just keep going back to is How Does It Make You Feel, which sounds very Floydy. But yeah, double album, really interesting, kind of electronic, kind of pop, but dreamy, really good. A great artist. Was this the first album I bought by him? I undoubtedly bought it in the cheap bins, but I really love this album. I've had this album since the late 70s, or early 80s, excuse me, and that is Marvin Gaye's In Our Lifetime. Smooth, but still has, great lyrics on here as well. Yeah, just a very good album, very good album. I don't want to say too much about it because I can't really think of anything in particular. The wonderful Prefab Sprout and Protest Songs, Red Spine, even though that is kind of a crimson red. Is that a crimson red? Pinky red? I'm going to call it red. But this is like an album that came out after they'd had some success with Cars and Girls, I think. And this is like more kind of a demo feel, less smooth, slick feel. But it's just still a really, really excellent album. Everybody's favourite Curmudgeon, and that is a latest record project, Volume 1, by the great Van Morrison. Now, look, we all know that he is a bit of a miserable bugger, and people don't like him. I almost met him once, but he looked at me to say, stay away, and so I did. But of course, he's attracted a lot of controversy in the last few years, since 2020 rather, when he started questioning the narrative, the government narrative on lockdowns and all that business. And a lot of people really took against him for that. But for me, he was asking some really, really important questions and pushing back on some pretty authoritarian moves. So I've still got a soft spot. It's not the best album. There's too much to digest. It's a triple album here. But yeah, I love Van Morrison. Have done since the late 70s. One who's definitely dead. Another one, but also has a red spine. And that is Marilyn Monroe. Never Before and Never Again. And this, apparently, you can see I bought that for £1 at a charity shop. Including the Mr. President mix of I Want to Be Loved by You. But this also has My Heart Belongs to Daddy. So yeah, the great Marilyn Monroe. One band I did see supporting Genesis in 1978 at the Nebworth Festival. Grace Slick was, I think, sent home after imbibing too much. And so the band performed without her. And that was Jefferson Starship and the great Red Octopus album. I didn't know much about Ride the Tiger on You, but that's not from this album. The big track on this album is Miracles. Right, we are definitely into Dave's FAVE500 territory. 5 more to go. These are 5, in my judgment, excellent albums, and definitely in my top 500. And that is, first one is Dire Straits, Making Movies. I remember when I was at college, and I had a week or two of examinations, and every morning as I got up before I did an exam, because exams were daily on that my particular course, I played Tunnel of Love at concert volume in the halls of residence. Totally inspiring, fantastic guitar work by the great Mark Knopfler. So it's a fantastic album. This was a bit of a comeback for me because I like them from the Empires and Dance days and that Simple Minds, but they got a bit too bombastic to me. The highlight is New Gold Dream, but then they brought out this one out, Street Fighting Years, and this was around 1990 or something like that. But this is kind of got a softer, less bombastic feel. It's got the wonderful Belfast Child on it, but it's a version of Peter Gabriel's Biko, which is not brilliant. But I do love this album too. My most recent VCLT, got to include this one because it's red, and that is Grand Funk and Grand Funk, the famous Red album. From JT's Record Room out in Reno. He brought one over from me from the United States on his recent visit to the UK and posted it to me. It came a couple of weeks ago and I love it. Hard rock from the early 70s with a touch of soul. The second solo album from Peter Gabriel, produced by Robert Fripp. Probably his least satisfying album, but it's still up there. I absolutely adored Peter Gabriel at this period, and so all his tours for years and years. This is the Classic Records release on 45. Sorry, not 45. This is 33. Got another one on double 45. This is a really nice version of it. But yeah, the tracks on here. Well, DIY was the single from this one, the first single. On the Air is probably the most famous one, the album opener. But a great album from a fantastic artist. And finally, another solo artist. The second album I bought from him after I bought The Boatman's Call, and that is No More Shall We Part by the brilliant Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And for me, I mean, this is, as I sat sadly by her side, No More Shall We Part, of course. God Is in the House is sublime, absolutely wonderful album. Far cry from his more aggressive material, but this is a really late night, fantastic late night listen. So, Red or Dead, and Nick Cave is very much alive. Thank goodness. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.